Hey loves, it's your resident queerdo R Bear here. And in celebration of Ken's 60th birthday, I thought I would just spend a few minutes talking about how my whole Ken doll collection came to be and why he's so special and iconic to me as a queer man even today. You know, a lot of us, growing up, dreamt of collecting Barbie. I tell this story a lot on Instagram, but the truth is, I wanted to collect Barbie ever since I was a little kid. My sister's best friend had this old school yellow and orange Barbie dream house in our house, that A-frame old house, that I would just go to her house and stare at it and stare at the dolls inside of it and always say to myself, my God, they're so messy. Why doesn't someone care about these things? And I knew I could never touch them. I knew I could never touch the house because of the stigma that would have been, attached to it as a kid. I was actually afraid to approach what I wanted most. And I feel even to this day how sad that must have been for me as a young queer kid. But Ken is even more important to me because Ken and I have a really special bond. I came out of the closet in the early 1990s, and before I was even able to admit it to others, something came out on the market that changed my life, and that was Earring Magic Ken. Now, Earring Magic Ken came out in the early 1990s, and so did R Bear. And what I loved about Earring Magic Ken is that he was so controversial that people were going in droves to Toys R Us to grab their own Earring Magic Ken. They wanted it. And eventually, Barbie even pulled off the market some of their Earring Magic Ken dolls. But for me, Earring Magic Ken was a symbol of queer pride, even for this young, just coming out queerdo back in the early 90s. Earring Magic Ken literally told me that I can be out and proud. Earring Magic Ken had his ear pierced. Right after Earring Magic Ken came out, I pierced my ear. And it was really kind of like this revolutionary moment for me because this told me it was okay. It told me it was okay and that I was okay and that things were going to get better. Now, back then, I didn't even know what that mysterious ring around his neck was supposed to symbolize. I didn't know what that even was back then. But I didn't need to because I had this fabulous queerdo in a box in my bedroom, under the bed, of course, because I never had a doll out from under the bed. But every night I would look at him and I would say, one day I'm going to be that bold and that amazing and that queer. It's funny, but the two most influential men in my life happen to be Mr. Rogers and Ken Carson. The two most influential people. Mr. Rogers, who taught me about kindness to others, and Ken, who taught me that I can be my most authentic self and live the fantasy as much as I want to. And that really, really helped me a lot. Now, fast forward to years later, what I think is really interesting is that Ken, much later in time, I collected lots of dolls that looked queer from Ken, but there was something missing. The diversity was missing. There were no chubby Kens. I wanted to be represented. And over the years, we've seen, after Earring Magic Ken, we've seen, the invent of the Barbie Fashionista, which brought so many different complexions and body types to Ken that made us say, I identify so much easier with this doll now than I did even back then. we saw the invent of the BMR and the makeup BMR, which literally brought me to tears. If ever you want to, check out my YouTube video on the review of my very first impressions of the makeup BMR Ken, where I literally just start crying on camera because he gave us the most amazing representation, something that people in the early 90s would never dream would ever happen. This was revolutionary in the early 1990s, but hearing that makeup Ken brought us to a whole new level, a whole new representation. You know, my relationship with Ken is a little bit, let's just say, strange, in that as a doll collector, I didn't feel as intimidated collecting Ken dolls, but I was scared to death collecting Barbie dolls because I thought they were an affront to my own personal masculinity, and that people would look at me differently if I bought female dolls, which now I totally regret because times are so different than they were back then. But it wasn't until I shed that inhibition of being afraid of what people thought of me and kind of taking in that mantra by RuPaul, what other people think of me is none of my business, and start collecting Barbies and saying, yes, I could be my most authentic self and, play with Barbie hair and put Barbies in dresses. And then the natural evolution as my more non-binary days came out were to take my Ken dolls and push the envelope a little bit more and show Ken as a non-binary character too, following with the incredible work of Carlisle Noguera, who actually gave us a Ken that was fully realized as a queer person, which I thought was unbelievably brave. And I owe so much love to Carlisle Noguera for doing that for us as queer people in the world today. A lot of people ask me what I think about, what do you do if, someone disapproves of your doll collecting? My only answer to you is this, and this comes from 46 years of living and experience. Don't let anyone limit your potential. Don't let anyone tell you what you can and can't collect or what you should and shouldn't collect. People have walked into my house on dates, saw my doll collection, and walked out. And for a while, it really bothered me. But now, I don't care. The people who are the most important to you are the people who will accept every part of you and will celebrate what you celebrate, even if it's not something they don't like. So go out, collect what you want, have the most fabulous Barbie collection you could ever imagine. Put your Kens in dresses, put your Kens in heels, put your Barbies in jeans and sweaters. Doesn't matter. Authenticity is the greatest way to protest in times like we're in right now. Be yourself, live your fantasy, and know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you are valid and that you are beautiful. And the things that you love are wonderful. Thank you for listening.